That's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery and the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's the flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Only Football Podcast. Tonight, we are doing our Week 14 predictions. It's getting close to that time. Week 14, there's 5 more weeks of football left. So Kyle and I are going to be giving our picks, predictions of all the games remaining for Sunday and Monday. And of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives. With Kyle. Let's get it. America is football. Football is
America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. This is a moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my god.
No.
You loved it.
30 to 27.
Oh!
Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20. Woo!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast, Week 14 edition. Woo! We got a lot on the line for a lot of teams. Week 14. For me, it's the saddest week of the year. We have a bye week.
Boo!
When you get to the bye week, you're like, this is what it's going to feel like when football's over. I don't even want to talk about it. But
don't mention it. Don't think about it. Don't touch it.
Don't even think about thinking about touching it. But, I mean, in order to really appreciate where we are today, we do have to realize that there's only 4 football games left for a lot of teams. There's only 5 football games left. And we want to make the most out of the final weeks of the season. We're in the final month. So let's enjoy it. Let's not get sad. Let's embrace, because this is the part of the NFL season where you want to be playing your best football. If you're going to the playoffs, you don't want to be one of those teams that goes in with a 2-game losing streak. Yeah. You want to be a team that is actually bringing momentum into the playoffs. And even the good teams like the Lions, they got a game next week against Buffalo. So this final stretch right here all of a sudden becomes really important. And we're going to break it down today. I don't think anybody has more on the line than Seattle this week playing Arizona. And we're going to get to that game. But let's start from the top, which is going to be the first game we talk about, the New Orleans Saints going to New York to play the Giants. I just went on that whole thing about, important football games. Well, here's one that's not important for anybody. the Giants and the Saints. I mean, if anything,
God,
this is
facts right now.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like the Giants are in a position right now where I think the best thing that they could do is trade for Aaron Rodgers and draft Shedeur Sanders and let him develop for a year. But if the Giants are winning games, all of a sudden the Raiders, who also only have 2 wins, become the first overall pick. Maybe it doesn't really matter with the Miami Hurricanes quarterback, Cam
Ward.
I think he'll end up going probably number 1. I don't know. But what I do know is that if the Giants win this game, there's a good chance that their fans aren't going to be happy because of the reality of trying to get a guy that is going to turn the franchise around and get them back in their winning ways. The Saints think they have a guy in Derek Carr. And it's crazy that they have 4 wins right now because they started the season like 2 or 3-0, right?
3-0.
3-0. And Derek Carr got hurt and their season kind of went to the shitter. And Derek Carr did a lot to make himself ready for this season, and it showed in the beginning of the season, but they haven't been able to stay healthy. They're in a terrible situation. I'm going to go with the Saints because I think the Saints have Derek Carr, and I think that's enough for this one.
Yeah, this one's kind of an easy one for me too. I'm going Saints, even though they're in the Giants MetLife Stadium. But you've got at least some consistency with Derek Carr, with Alvin Kamara, with those guys there on the Saints. But that team is just completely underperformed this season after such a pretty damn good start. I mean, they were leading the league in points scored, per game. They were scoring 40 plus, it seemed like. And then, like you said, it just everything went to the shitter. And you couple that with pretty bad offensive play calling for a few game stretch there. Then Derek Carr got injured. Chris Olave got injured. Look, that entire Saints kind of team right now is on the verge of a rebuild. But they just got money allocated to everyone, to Kamara, Olave, whatever. But yeah, man, I got to go with the Saints. They're a bit more consistent. The Giants side, like you said, like they're putting in Tommy Tudds. Are they putting in Drew Lock? Who's starting? It seems like it's going to be Drew Lock. But even then, it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess we got to just put someone in here. Someone's got to be the quarterback. And that's their options. It's a shitty option to have. Now, even their defensive line is struggling. I think Dexter Lawrence or Thibodeau, one of them is hurt, has been injured for a little bit. So they're not at full strength either. They got the home crowd. They've got the home advantage, but I likes the Saints more in this one. And they're in that similar situation I was with the Bears a couple of years ago where I was just like, I want them to win, but it is worth it more for them to lose because of draft positioning, things like that. And it worked out for us at the end. So Giants fans, if the Giants accidentally win, I'm sorry. And I've been there, but I'm taking the Saints for this one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to switch my pick to the Giants. Drew Lock is starting, and I actually agree with the decision, and I'm not going to get too deep into it here, but I think if you're the Giants, you want to figure out what you have with Drew Lock in the final stretch. Tommy Tudds is not going to be your franchise quarterback. Drew Lock, who actually had a good game if you watch the game, but the problem was the offensive line was horrendous. So the offensive line is going to need to hold up, but I know that Drew Lock is going to want to make the most of this situation, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the Saints are that good of a team at home. I mean, I think Drew Lock has a big game. I'm going to switch it. It's a pivot, but I'm going to go with the Giants here. Now,
Kyle changing it up. I love it.
The Browns at Steelers. This one's exciting. Myles Garrett, last time they played, he wrecked the Steelers all on his own. The Browns ended up winning that game. The Browns tend to be really good in these type of situations, and also you saw the game that they had on Monday night. You saw them beat the Ravens, and the Steelers. I've been doing this all season, and I've been right 100% of the time. The Browns, as the underdog going into Pittsburgh, I'm going to go with the Browns here. The Steelers, as a favorite at home, I never pick them. Every time they're on the road and they're an underdog, I pick them. Yeah. And that has not been wrong once. I mean, we're in week 14. That formula has been great for me. So the Steelers right now lead the league with 25 takeaways. Jameis Winston, who literally after the game said, I'm praying that the Lord will deliver me from pick sixes. That is the soundbite of the year. It is the funniest thing I think I've ever heard somebody say. And you could just tell he was like, I know I'm better than this. And you know what was funny was like the ESPN people, they were like, this is who you are. This is who you've always been. And I'm like, you know what though? I don't think when somebody is like, I remember I used to always lose my wallet. And I remember somebody told me, they said, stop saying you always lose your wallet because you're reinforcing a belief about yourself. And then you end up following through with it. And you go, see, I told you. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the worst way. I believe in speaking into existence the things that you want. And Jameis Winston doesn't want to sit there and be like, this is who I am. Why would he?
Yeah.
I think when he is not throwing pick sixes, he's one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league. I can't just ignore the fact that Jameis Winston, even with the interceptions, is clearly playing the best quarterback of his career. Right now, I watched that game. The throws, he has some decisions that are terrible. You take those out of the game, he's like a top 10 quarterback in the league, which is very exciting. But I'm going to go with the Lord delivering Jameis Winston from the pick sixes and the Browns getting the win here.
I love it. I love it. And you were saying it's exciting when he's not throwing pick sixes. It's exciting when he's throwing those pick sixes. It's exciting regardless.
For Broncos country.
Yeah, it was a great time. Now, outside of the Browns beating the Steelers in the 2020 season during the playoffs, Kyle, when do you think the last time the Browns beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh.
On the road, yeah.
I'm going to go 2008.
2003 is the last time the Browns won a road game in Pittsburgh. Outside of that playoff game where Baker Mayfield literally introduced himself to the Browns and said, I'm your franchise quarterback, and then they threw him away. That's another conversation for another day, which we've already had. But the 2003 season is the last time the Browns have won a road game in Pittsburgh. I totally agree with what you're saying. I love Jameis. Jameis is an exciting quarterback. It's awesome to see him throw touchdowns. It's awesome to see him throw interceptions because he does it in the craziest, wildest ways. But in this case, and I know your formula, I like your formula. There's been so many times where you've proven me wrong with that formula. Talking about the Ravens, I believe, and a couple other games where the Steelers were not favorites on the road. It's worked. This time, though, I'm going to have to go with the Steelers because the Browns have not won in a really long time. Last time they won was with Baker. Last time they won in Pittsburgh on the road, 2003, I think Tim Couch was their quarterback. Remember Tim Couch? That was their guy. He said, no, not at all. That was their guy. So with Russ, the way he's playing, Deontay Johnson's actually, he's doing really bad right now. But George Pickens, the way that team is playing right now, I like where they're at, and especially with the record that the Browns have in Pittsburgh, I'm going Steelers.
All right. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. Gross.
Disgusting.
Collective 5 wins. A collective record of 5-19. Trevor Lawrence on IR. I knew he was going to be on IR. With the Broncos having the bye week, I picked up Tennessee's defense, thinking that, that would be the case with the hit he took. We could go way into that conversation, but the fact of the matter is Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be available, and Mac Jones is now going to begin an audition for proving to the NFL that he should be a backup. Jones has had 2 starts this season. He's led Jacksonville to a combined 13 points in those games. There's not much to love about Mac Jones. The Jaguars are a feisty team that loses with Trevor Lawrence on the field. Without him, they're a bad team that loses. The Titans' run defense, they're very exploitable. 264 rushing yards the Commanders put up on that defense. The passing defense, outstanding. So the game plan for the Jaguars is going to be to run the football with ETN and Tank Bigsby and try to get a win that way. I'm taking the under in this game. It's at 39.5 points. I don't think any of these teams make it to 20 points. I think it's going to be a low scoring 10-13 ball game. I'm taking the Titans to win this game at home. And if anybody does reach 20 points, it's definitely going to be the Titans.
Yeah, it's the Titans for me too. Mac Jones, I think he rushed for a touchdown in his first start or when he came. Yeah, I think it was like his first start or when he came in for garbage time or Trevor got hurt. I forget when it was earlier this season when he actually came in. And he had a rushing touchdown, and that was all the offense. Like, it was Mac Jones, and he was super excited, and then nothing after that. Now, you're right. It's going to be ETN all day. It's going to be, who else is it? Bigsby running the ball. It's probably going to be a lot of really short throws for Mac Jones to at least try to move the sticks if they're in a 3rd and short situation, what have you. But it really is going to be a ground game attack for the Jags, and I think Doug Peterson knows this, and unless they're down big, which I agree with you. I see this as like a 15-12 game, 15-10 game. And unless they're down by more than a score, it's probably going to be running all day. They're not going to let Mac Jones throw a lot. This is another game that really doesn't matter to either of these teams. But I like the Titans more. I like their defense a little bit better. What's his name? Levis. Hasn't really made any dumb mistakes that we saw the first half of the season, really this latter half, at least yet.
I think he threw a pick 6 last week.
Oh, did he really? At least not in a ridiculous. I think was it Seattle? No, Seattle played the Jets.
Oh, was it? Okay, the week before.
Okay, yeah, the week. Okay, so he's gone 1 week without making the dumbest pick 6 so far this season. So we got to give him a little bit of credit there. But yeah, I'm going with the Titans here. There's really not much really else to it, and I think I picked up. Oh my God, what's his name?
Oh, no, it was the Texans. That's what it was.
Oh, it was the Texans. Okay, I picked up the wide receiver, Westbrook Ikine, from Jacksonville. Okay. So I'm kind of hoping that in our matchup, Kyle,
tried to give you a receiver earlier in the year.
Yeah, and you never gave me the trade offer.
You just didn't accept.
No, you didn't. You didn't give me a trade offer. You're like, I'm going to give you this guy for this guy. And I was like, all right, make the trade on the episode, on a show live, Kyle. And you never came through. So, yeah, just saying, you never came through.
Well, I'm going to send you one. Our trade deadline.
Our trade deadline's over.
Damn it. All right. So finally an agreed game. You and Titans. I both going with the Titans here. Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm hoping he scores a touchdown.
Revenge game. Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, he's been awful. This has been arguably the worst 3-game stretch of his career. Mm-hmm. I made a short about it. You can find that on the Only Football podcast on YouTube under our shorts. But I basically was saying, and I'll just say it again because I remember what I said. Kirk Cousins has had 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles in his last 3 games. He hasn't thrown a single touchdown pass. He had 1 interception that stood out above all of the interceptions last week where they were in the red zone, and he threw it into quadruple coverage. He just like lobbed the ball up, and it was like there's bad interceptions where it's like, you know, a DB just breaks on the ball, and it's like, I should have thrown it more outside. That was just like an unexcusable where you're just like, what is he thinking? Like,
yeah,
it's beyond just like a boneheaded mistake. It was really like something is wrong with Kirk Cousins. I don't know if it's the Achilles injury. I don't know why Kirk Cousins is playing so bad. But I said if the Falcons want an opportunity to salvage the season, they have to put Penix in. That is what they have to do. Now, for the Falcons, they probably are like, well, Kirk Cousins going back to play the Vikings, a team that he has a lot of practice playing against their defense. I know their offense. I can help out with the game plan. Like perhaps this just wasn't the week to bench Kirk Cousins. But if Cousins has another game like that against the Vikings, even if it's a half, I wouldn't be surprised if Penix does find himself into this game, but I can understand from Raheem Morris's point of view why he would want Kirk Cousins to start this football game. Sam Darnold's been probably having the best 3-game stretch of the season, and he's thrown a combined 7 touchdowns, 811 yards with no picks in those 3 games. I feel like I have to take the Vikings. There's nothing there. The only thing that you would even consider going Falcons is the revenge aspect. If you took that out, the Vikings would be a much bigger underdog than 6 points, which is what they're getting right now. I think the Vikings, I think the Vikings -6 is the bet here. The idea that Kirk Cousins is just going to be able to put all this behind him and suddenly be successful at week 14, I think is wishful thinking. The Falcons are a 6-6 team that could very easily be 2-10 or 3-9, but I think they're a phony 6-6 team, and I think the Vikings are a much better, more complete, better coached, better quarterback team at this point of the season, and they're at home. So
yeah, so you're taking the
no,
Falcons.
I'm taking the Vikings.
The Vikings. I have to take the Vikings too. Their defense is better. Their offense is still contending, and Sam Darnold is still doing really well. I think we had a conversation about this yesterday when we were doing the Thursday Night Football live stream, as well as our top 5, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out under our live tab. We did our top 5, so go check it out. But so the reason I don't think that Penix should be brought in for Cousins, they're still in the race for the NFC South. They're leading it right now. And the only really team that can threaten is the Bucs, and they both have the same record. Now, I understand if you are looking at this at strictly a talent level, that you want to bring in Penix, see what you got there. Fuck it, why not? But they're still in the race, and the revenge factor I get too. But if you're still in the race like this, like you can't go off Kirk Cousins.
Penix in is because they are in the race.
Really? Oh, okay. Then that's a pretty odd take. I will say that, because usually you're gonna run with the guy who, and we got to think about this too. The defenses that he's gone up against, the Chargers and the Broncos, the Saints, nah, okay, sure, but he's thrown a combined 4 interceptions against the Broncos and the Chargers. Totally makes sense. You got Surtain, you got the Chargers defense that is playing outstanding, but the Saints, it's like, okay, 1 interception game, 250 yards. All right, maybe that's an outlier. You look at the previous 2 games, he threw 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for a combined like almost 500 yards against the Bucs and the Cowboys, the divisional opponent, and the Cowboys. I think they were in Dallas. No, they were at home. Sorry. And then you're like, okay, sick. And then you go into these last 3 weeks and you're like, 6 interceptions, Kirk. What is going on, brother? So there's a really good Kirk. There's the regular Kirk. And then there's these last 3 games, Kirk. So for me, if I'm the coach, I'm still keeping in Kirk. I don't want to put in Penix, but you have to look at the past production that Kirk has done. And in the last 3 weeks tells a really, really bad story. And that's why I'm going Vikings. Maybe a lot of coaches have figured out the Flores defense for the Vikings. It's been kind of seen recently that, okay, maybe it's not as crazy as it was at the beginning, but I still think it's going to be more than effective enough against Kirk Cousins, who, again, is coming off that Achilles. Also, another quarterback who's a little bit on the older side, also coming off an Achilles last year, isn't playing very well. We'll get into that a little bit, but yeah, I got to go Vikings here. They're playing at a much higher level. Sam Darnold is playing better than Kirk Cousins, as of late, pretty much all season, really. So I'm going Vikings for sure.
All right. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins, the home team. And the Jets are the away team. Now, the Jets Look, as much as the season's over and there's nothing to play for, I watched the Pat McAfee show because I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if Aaron Rodgers is still doing the Tuesday interviews because I'm
Yeah.
like, it's got to be weird to like do these when your team is losing every single week. And to my surprise, he did do it. And you can tell he's bummed out about the way the season has gone and the fact that the the playoffs and the aspirations and they got 3 wins. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But Aaron Rodgers didn't really sound that way. He was like, he kind of approached it with, it was very unemotional. And he was like, well, we still have to be professionals. Like the season's not over. We still have to go out there and, we're not only paid when we're being, a good football team. We get paid and we have to go out there and perform.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that. And I was like, man, he's right. Like you are still as an athlete expected to approach this as like it have that business mentality. Like we have to go take care of business.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what our record is. They asked them, they're like, are you kind of leaning into the spoiler? And that's when he said that. He's like, it's not really about like, being motivated by destroying someone's season. We have to be self-motivated because we're professional athletes.
Mhm.
That has to really be the mentality. And I was like, well, I really kind of like that mindset because the Jets have a lot to play for. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like it, but if you look at all those players, the Jets have new ownership coming in. They got, they talked about not having Aaron Rodgers next year. So you
Mhm.
got players playing for future teams.
Yeah.
And the way that you look when you're a 3-9 team says a lot about you. If you go out there and you don't really care and you're dragging your feet and you're not actually running back the passes and wanting it more than the other team, the league talks. They're like, yeah, this
Mhm.
guy, not but if you go out there and you're 3-9 and you just wouldn't be able to tell based on how much they want it, that's the kind of stuff that will make people want to pick you up as a free agent. And I feel like with the way the season's gone, there's really no certainty for anybody in New York right now. So I do expect the Jets to come to Miami and play a really good game. I just don't think they get the win.
Mhm.
Um, Miami's 5.5 point favorites right now. I feel like that's a very reasonable spot to be. But Miami losing to the Packers pretty much ended their season. The best they can finish is what, 10-7?
They got to win out. Yeah, 10 and
So
7.
so they have to win out. Um, so I guess Miami, they're like, hey, if we can get to 10 wins, we're probably a playoff team.
Mhm.
Especially when you think about the Chargers have to play the Chiefs and the Broncos in their next 2 games. So I think the Dolphins are gonna, they're gonna play their best football game. I think the Jets are gonna. I think this is a sneaky good game. It's one that looks like it wouldn't be, but I think this is going to be a really good rivalry. The Jets haven't scored 30 points against the Dolphins since the last time let's just say the last time the Jets were this far into the season without scoring even one 30-point game was
Mhm.
in 2020, and they finished the season 2-14. The Jets offense has only scored 3 touchdowns in the past 6 trips to Miami.
Oh my
The
god.
last 30-point performance in Miami for the Jets was in 2014, and that happened to be their last time winning. So I will say this: if the Jets get to 30 points, they're going to
Mhm.
win the game. But
That's tough.
it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the the Dolphins here, but I really wouldn't bet on this game.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. And I'm also gonna go with the Dolphins. You talked about them losing to the Packers and that kind of being it, and they gotta win out, but they've got to beat the Jets. It's a divisional matchup, tough divisional matchup. Then they're in Houston. Then they take on the 49ers. They're at Cleveland and then at the Jets to finish off the season. I I don't see a 5 game win streak there, like one bit. The Browns is going to be tough. Um, the Texans next week after this Jets game is going to be tough. And to play the Jets twice in 5 weeks, the Jets are going to take one of those games. Like whether it's this one right now or the one at week 18, like it's going to happen. So it's tough, but I still think that Miami at home is going to win this. They're just going to lose the one on week 18 at New York. And as far as the Jets, man, I don't know. I'm getting a little tired of Aaron Rodgers' shtick here about we got to be motivated. We're athletes. Like, dude, just say you want to play spoiler. You've got 3 wins. You have 0 playoff expectations at this point. Just say you want to play spoiler. And look, I've heard
that's like being I feel like
I get the motivation aspect.
If I were an athlete, I wouldn't. I would be like, if that's what it takes to motivate us, like that's basically just reinforcing why we're a 3-win team.
What, the spoiler aspect?
Yeah, like I need to like have something to motivate me because I don't know how to motivate myself.
Here's the thing, though.
Like that's something Justin Simmons would say.
But here's the thing. Like, I don't think these athletes need any motivation. They've made it to the NFL. They know what they were last year. They know what they can be, and they just haven't delivered. Mostly pertaining to the Jets here. I just like Aaron Rodgers. Like, I get it. He wants to talk about this. He wants to go on these retreats. Like, dude, it's like, okay, just like, it's a little too much now at this point. It's like, dude, you tore your Achilles last year. That sucks. No matter who you are, no matter what fan of a team you are. Oh, Bears fan here checking in. By the way, I hope he's okay. Things like that. And that sucks for an athlete because that was an entire year of expectations and one that you wanted to play. But you try to come back early. You didn't come back early because the Jets weren't good. And you were like, yeah, I could come back if the Jets make the playoffs. It's like, okay, if they make them, okay. Now you get a whole off season. You come back, you play like shit, and you play either similar or worse than with Zach Wilson, the Jets, last year. And then you're kind of saying...
The defense has been way worse.
And the defense has been way worse. And it's like, I think these guys are motivated. I don't think Aaron Rodgers needs to go on Pat McAfee and be like, no, we're not going to be that. We're not going to be spoiler motivated. We're going to be motivated because we want to win. It's like, we know, man, but come on, at least add a little bit of fire, something. Like, we want to beat the Dolphins because they're our division opponents and we want to kick their ass. And we want to ruin their season. Some shit like that. You guys
might
know.
have said that at the end. I was just highlighting one part.
Okay. All right, if it is, then maybe. But I don't know, man. It's just Aaron Rodgers has played like shit this year. Obviously, he's coming off an Achilles, similar to Kirk Cousins, like I mentioned earlier. Aaron Rodgers is the other guy. We can't, like, the expectations were high, and they're clearly not there. And then just, you got your every Tuesday with McAfee, and you're saying, well, we don't want to play spoiler. We want to be motivated. It's like, dude, come on, light a fire, do something, be a little bit more animated. And that's not Aaron Rodgers at all. Aaron Rodgers is not that guy. So I know I'm asking for a lot, but to be like, yeah, we're just motivated by winning. We know who we are. It's like, okay, well, good luck next year trying to find a team to be on, which you probably will, but it's going to be a little bit harder, I think.
There'll be plenty of teams that are going to be like, yeah, I mean, if there's one thing we know about the NFL, is that there's just certain places, and this isn't like a pass because Rodgers hasn't played good this season, but there's just certain places that almost are like destined to be bad no matter what.
Yeah.
And the Jets have had a lot of quarterbacks come through and fall flat. But if Aaron Rodgers, say Stafford retires and McVay gets him for a year, I would feel a lot better about even at the age, even at 41. I think there's going to be a team that's like, well, I mean, we don't really have a better option than Aaron Rodgers, even if he's like, because the whole thing was like, even if he's a shell of himself with that defense. And then what happened to the defense? It was like, how did they? Question. And John Franklin Myers came to Denver, and there's just, they lost a couple of pieces that they thought were expendable, and it turns out that those guys weren't expendable, and their defense is bad, man. It's really bad. Like,
but somehow in terms of yardage and like other certain factors, they were like top 5, top 7.
Passing
it's like,
defense is still like, I think
yeah,
the passing
it's like,
defense was still holding on. I think I saw a stat here with their passing defense because
I've got to look this up too because it was ridiculous. Like seeing the Jets and being like, how does this make any sense? Scoring defense. Jets are 15th in terms of scoring defense, 22 points a game. Total defense, yards per game. Jets are 3rd in yards per game allowed.
that's
Like,
crazy. How many
what?
points are they giving up though?
22. That's the thing. It's like these teams are like scoring touchdowns on their first 2 drives, 3 drives, and then calling it a day. Yeah, it's like, what? That's what I mean. It's like the defense is good somehow, but they're just letting the offense be efficient. They're letting them go 3 drives, 70 yards each drive, and scoring a touchdown each time and maybe getting a field goal on the next one, and that's it. And it's like, how do you...
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like no matter how, and if the offense is having a better day, the defense has a worse day. It's like
so weird.
Somebody makes a mistake always. It's a fumble on offense. Yep. It's a bad pick, or the defense blows a coverage, like they missed kick. The Jets find a way to lose every single week somehow.
And you know what? They were, 1-1, 2-1. The Broncos broke them. Week 4, 9 to 10.
Atlanta too.
Yeah, you broke the Saints. And you broke the Jets most importantly because it was a Week 4 10-9 win. Then they lose to the Vikings, lose to the Bills, lose to the Steelers, lose to the Patriots. Finally, get a weird win against the Texans. The Broncos ruined the Jets season and secured their spot into a postseason berth.
And that was a must-win for us because if we lost that game, we would have been 1-3.
That's crazy to look back at that right now.
Yeah,
and be like,
that was a turning point.
Broncos broke the Jets. That's what Aaron Rodgers gets for not going to Denver.
And that's exactly what I said after the Atlanta game. I said that was the kind of loss Atlanta had against Denver that will ruin their season. There's no coming back from that.
There you go.
And Atlanta hasn't been the same since that game.
There you go.
The Panthers, who kind of have been a little bit better recently, they're taking on the Eagles, who are 10-2. That's a really tough one. Saquon Barkley leads the league in rushing. He's trying to get to that crazy mark. He's averaging 124.9 rushing yards per game. The Panthers are allowing 160 rushing yards per game. Last week against Tampa, they gave up 236 rushing yards. This just is like Saquon Barkley. This is like his Thanksgiving. He is going to feast on this defense. And then the defense for the Eagles has been playing at just an elite level since week 5. Fangio's really got them all bought into the scheme. You got 2 rookies that are making a huge impact. The 13-point spread right now is interesting because Bryce Young has been playing his best football recently. Played a really good game where he had over 300 yards against the Chiefs. And then last week was going back and forth with Tampa Bay. So I'm inclined to take the Panthers plus 13 just because I don't know if they're going to lose by that much. I feel like the line might be a little inflated because even last week with the Tampa Bay Bucks rushing for 236 yards, it still came down to the very end of the game. And I think Tampa barely got away with that one. So I like the Panthers plus 13. I like the Eagles to win.
Yeah, I like that. The plus 13 for the Panthers because you got to look at Bryce Young too. I mean, last 4 games, 860 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. You said it. He's playing his best football. Is it weird that I think this is going to be a closer game than obviously the line is 13. And I mean, believe me, I would have taken this mid-year Panthers, early year Panthers, but I don't know, man. It's the Eagles are looking at this. They're very disappointed that the Lions beat the Packers last night. Which, by the way, let's go. So they're looking at it and they're like, shit. Well, we got to win out. They've got to lose to Buffalo and they got to lose to the Bears or another NFC opponent to even think about that number one playoff spot for the Eagles. So they're probably like, we want to beat the shit out of the Panthers, and I think this might be one of those like we want to do it so bad where it might be a little too much, too overzealous, if you know, and the Panthers might take advantage of that. I think it might be a closer game. I like the Eagles, and I'm gonna pick the Eagles, but this is probably similar to what the Carolina Panthers played last week against the Bucks. It went into overtime and they won by 3. So I think it's going to be that close. I don't know if it goes into overtime, but in Philadelphia, it'll be harder. But this might be a 3-point game, man. I really think it might be a very close game. But I'm taking the Eagles.
Dang, I thought I was being bullish on the plus 13, but you're saying plus 3.
Yeah.
That is interesting. We'll see.
Yeah. Defense playing really good though.
Yeah, you and I both kind of on the same path there.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders and the Buccaneers,
Ooh.
the Gruden Bowl.
The Gruden
He
Bowl.
coached both of these teams. Brock Bowers has been an absolute stud this season. He probably continues against the Bucks because they have the number 30 pass defense. They're allowing 258 passing yards per game. Bowers has 27 catches and 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games combined. He only needs 3 receptions to surpass Sam Laporta's record that only would last 1 year by most catches by a rookie in a single season. The Buccaneers, they really do kind of have to, I'm not going to say win out because I expect the Falcons to lose a lot. Mm-hmm. But if they really want to feel good going into the postseason, they got to pull together some wins. But the star here is Bucky Irving. And Bucky Irving, since he's taken over a bigger role, he has really made a case to be a top 5 fantasy like running back next year. He is going absolutely ham right now. It's not just running the ball, it's catching the ball. The offense, ever since they really found out how good Bucky Irving is, it's like very, very balanced. Because we know Baker can sling it. We know that they got good wide receivers and tight ends. This is a really good offense. Tampa right now is minus 6.5. I like Tampa to win by more than 6.5. I would take minus 6.5. I think Tampa is going to be at home, and I think this is one of those games where it's going to be 21-0 in the second quarter just started.
Oh, okay. I also like the Bucks to win this game. Obviously, last week when they played the Panthers, we just talked about, like they're like, hey, we can't really take any team for granted, and the Raiders at 2-10 is definitely going to be one of them, right? Like that, I think that should be the message in that locker room right now. Is like, look how we did against the Panthers. We went in overtime with Bryce Young and the Panthers. Bryce Young, who last year was doing shit, got benched this year. Now what, right? Like, how did we do that? Let's fix those mistakes. And Bucky Irving is a great start. Obviously, Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield are going to be a huge factor in this game too. The defense has to take advantage of Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell had a really good game against the Chiefs. 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and we already talked about Brock Bowers. You're saying 21-0 by the second quarter? Maybe
like middle of the second quarter.
Middle of the second, yeah. Like I could see maybe like a 21-7 game, and Brock Bowers already has a touchdown because Aiden O'Connell, that's his guy. Now they're probably going to zone in on Brock Bowers, but you leave what's his name? The other guy, the other wide receiver for the Raiders. Jacoby
Myers.
Jacoby Myers, yes, thank you. You leave him kind of open, and he's not bad. Like he's made some really good strides as a wide receiver, even last year when Devontae Adams was still on the team, and early this year. So you kind of got to pick and choose here who you're going to go with, whether it's Brock Bowers, whether it's the most important thing I think in this aspect for the Bucks is one, don't take your opponent for granted, and two, get to Aiden O'Connell and get to him as fast as you possibly can. Get pressure on him, try to sack him, try to make him make mistakes, and try to get a fumble recovery at the end of the game, just like against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I need Bucky Irvin to have a huge game because Jaden Reed got me 0 points.
I hope he does nothing for you.
I was like, he hasn't done that once this year. He's been on my bench the last 3 weeks, and I was like, I have a gut feeling that, and I did have a gut feeling the opposite. He literally, it was like if I would have started someone on their bye week. I mean,
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. The fantasy football always does that to me.
Yeah.
It never works out. I should just do the opposite of my gut when it comes to my roster decisions. But moving on, the Seahawks and Cardinals. This is the game of the week. Nobody with more on the line here. The Seahawks get a win. They take a 2-game lead over the Cardinals. The Cardinals get a win, and they're tied. I would have to look into the tiebreaker to see how that would work. But it doesn't take a genius to know that Arizona has to win this game. And they're 2.5-point favorites. Seahawks, they've been good at times. Defense has been really good too. The Cardinals have been struggling in the red zone. Right now, they have a 16.7% rate. That is pretty bad. I think the Cardinals being at home is going to give them a boost here. Kyler Murray, he has had a 15.0 QBR when pressured over the past 2 games. That's crazy. After entering Week 12 with the best QBR, 84.9 in the NFL when pressured. So he's been the best quarterback in the league when pressured. And in the last 2 games, he's the worst when pressured. So I don't know what that's about, but I know McDonald's going to have a game plan to put pressure on Kyler Murray, and he's going to need to have a big game if the Cardinals are going to win this. But these are divisional rivalries. This is 2 teams that know each other really, really well. I expect this game to come down and actually go into overtime, and I'm going to take the Cardinals to end up winning this game in overtime. I think the Cardinals are going to have a lead, 7-point lead with 2 minutes left in the game. And I think JSN is going to have one of those last second touchdowns from Geno Smith. That's going to push the game into overtime. Cardinals win the coin toss and score and win the game 37-31.
Oh, that's a fucking game right there. I'm rooting for the Seahawks. And to be honest, I think they're going to win because I'm also hoping and a lot of people are saying that JSN is going to have one of those types of games, and he's my wide receiver in fantasy right now that's in. So I need him to have one of those types of games. He's like you have there at the bottom of the ticker, 19 plus points per game, right? So this is a great divisional matchup. You said it at the very beginning. This is going to matter. This is one of those games this week that really, really does matter in terms of playoffs, divisions, seeding, all those things. So I'm going with the Seahawks. I'm going to be wearing my Seahawks hat for that game. And I think they're going to beat the Cardinals. They beat the Cardinals 16-6 earlier this year. The Cardinals tight end. I have him on my team, but for some reason I can't remember his name right now.
Trey McBride.
He has been one of the best tight ends in the league this year. And I think I called it in the preseason. I was like, Trey McBride's going to be one of those guys this year. And I even said it during our draft. I was like, Trey McBride, he's going to fucking get, and he's doing it. The only thing is he has not scored a touchdown. And the Cardinals are bottom tier in the red zone. They struggle in the red zone hard.
Yeah, they do.
They're just above 50%. And the Seahawks, not that much better, but they're top half of the league at 56%. So that 4% means a lot in terms of rankings, in terms of scoring touchdowns. So Well, I think Arizona's going to struggle, and the defense for Seattle has been a little bit better. I mean, you saw Leonard Williams last week at a pick six, a 92-yarder. So all of that combined against Kyler Murray's shortness, which, by the way, check out the thumbnail. It's really funny. I think Seattle comes away with a win. I don't know if it gets into the upper 30s like you're saying. I think it stays 20s.
Nope, it's going into the 30s.
I think it stays 27, 24, something around that. And I think Jason gets 3 touchdowns and 200 yards.
If I'm wrong about this, I will be shocked.
I hope it does, because that sounds like a fucking exciting ass game. And it's probably going to be one of the only ones that I watch in that first slate. I hope it does, but I think it's going to be a 20s type of game.
You're not going to watch this game.
I'm going to watch it so hard.
The game, Rick.
I'm watching it so hard in spite of you.
Because you're going to be watching the Bears.
That's the second slate.
This game's the second slate.
Oh, is Seattle? Oh, you're right. Fuck, I thought Seattle's one of the 3 games in the second slate. Never mind. My bad.
I'm like, he's not watching the game. I don't know what he's talking about.
What is he saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're in the same situation I'm in, because next week the Broncos are playing the Colts in a must-win, and while that game's going on, Buffalo and the Lions will be playing in the Super Bowl preview.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, man? I don't know what to do. I really don't. I mean, I know I'm not going to be watching the Lions game, but I'm like, do I record it and just not look at any updates and just rewatch it?
That's ballsy.
I'm thinking about it. I'm just so curious. But anyway, I'll probably get it ruined with updates. So I'll probably just end up knowing what happens and then go back and watch the game. It's never the same, though.
Yeah, your quarterback's Josh Allen.
Yeah. My quarterback's Josh Allen. We're going to talk about them next. But the Bears, 4-8, taking on the 49ers, who are 5-7. CMC's done for the year. Brock Purdy's been banged up. I'll make this quick. I'm taking the Bears to get the win. I'm always going to probably lean on the side of an interim head coach. By the way, I didn't know that technology was at the point where we could recreate someone's genetic code exactly. The cloning. Have you seen Mike Tomlin?
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin is the interim head coach for the Bears right now. Watch
I get the same vibes.
Watch the post game, or the whole speech. It was like exactly what Mike Tomlin would say. I mean, verbatim, and I loved every second of it, because I always get excited. I'm like, well, what if this is the guy? What if this is the guy?
Me too.
He seems like the guy. I was excited. I was ready to go play. I was like, man, this guy's got me kind of fired up. He's like, we need to trust each other before we can even focus on 49ers. We need to basically like get on the same page inside of these walls. I expect the Bears to play for each other. I expect them to put together a solid game plan, but I think this is not really about a game plan. I think this is just about emotion. I think the Bears are going to have a very emotional game. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a big game. I think the Bears are going to have a big game. And I think the Bears are going to end up winning this game. Is it going to be enough to kind of catapult them into a winning stretch? We'll find out, because after seeing what I saw, I've never seen in 30 years, I've never seen what happened on Thanksgiving. That was the worst. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett looked like Bill Belichick compared to that. I was like, never more confused in my life. How does that happen? Like, and I'm like, I had to Google, is the wide receivers, are they allowed to call timeout? Because I'm like, how did like an offensive lineman not be like, fuck this, timeout? What are we doing? What do you? I don't even know how to even for Caleb. I'm like, bro, I get that your coach is terrible, but
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Like,
Yep.
what are you guys all doing? Like, you just sat there for 35 seconds, wound the clock all the way down, and then threw it short of the end zone. What the
Yeah.
fuck? I can't
Yeah.
believe that. Whatever. Goofs happen, and it's over. And I think Bears are happy it happened because it got Eberflus fired.
Yep.
It is still the weirdest shit I've ever seen. So I think
Preaching to the choir, dude.
yeah, it was so strange. And I was at the Seahawks game when Nathaniel Hackett did the same thing,
Mhm.
except he called the timeout with 2 seconds left and attempted a field goal. This was like that without even the timeout. I mean, it was
Yeah. It was the worst ever. And I'm going to play my reaction. It's from my Ring camera. I'm not going to show you the actual video, but I'm going to show you my reaction. I'm going to let you hear my reaction.
How are you gonna let him through? You just let him walk through you. Oh my God, that was horrible.
Hold on. I think this is, let me see if this is it.
it sounds like it.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
What are you guys doing? Doyle, come on, throw the flag in there. You got a timeout. You had a timeout. That wasn't a flag either.
I was so mad, dude. I was like, you had a timeout. What are you doing? And oh God, dude,
I was watching the game in the living room with my family. As soon as Caleb Williams took a sack, right before that, I was like, can't take a sack here. You'll be out of field goal range. As soon as his body hit the floor, I was like, timeout, timeout,
Yes.
timeout. I was
Yes.
like, oh, timeout. What are they doing? I've watched 3 Bear reaction videos and like nobody is like screaming until there's 15 seconds left. I'm like, no. That timeout should have been called immediately. And
Yeah.
somebody commented and they're like, any savvy coach calls that timeout immediately. I'm like, no. Any high school fucking football coach calls that timeout immediately. A 12-year-old playing Madden calls that timeout immediately. Like, you don't have to be savvy to understand clock management. And look, this is on everybody. I'm mad at the receivers for not calling the timeout. But regardless, it seems like Caleb Williams was winning the games that they did win in spite of Eberflus. And I'm excited to see what it'll look like with maybe a coach that was probably, I don't know why even the assistant coaches, why nobody called timeout. It was really a failure. It was a team failure, and Eberflus got all the shit for it, as he should as the head coach. But
Yep.
really, it was a failure on every single one of those players on the field and the
Yeah,
coaches that sat by and did nothing.
And even like I watched back that clip, and the angle of that play, the last play was obviously the players on the field, but it was also the Bears sideline. And you see one of the Bears, I don't know who, I got to rewatch it. One of the Bears guys on the sideline's like,
I saw that.
arms in the air, looking side to side, like, even if the player knows, you said a high school football, a Park District coach knows to call that fucking timeout. And Eberflus's entire reasoning for that afterwards was the dumbest thing I ever heard. He's like, yeah, at that point you want to get that playoff at 18 seconds, 16 seconds, get a quick pass and then call that timeout. And it's like, if you called it at 32 seconds, you could do the same exact thing, except rush your fucking kicking team out there for a field goal with plenty of time.
Or
I was like, it was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, what? You think you did this okay? You think this was an okay? I told my wife after that, I've said, and it is just known for the 104-year existence of the Bears, they've never fired a coach. After that happened, and it was Thanksgiving, that's why I didn't stream the game for everybody. After that happened, I told my wife, I was like, I think that is it. I really, truly do believe that game right there is what's gonna break this whole not fire a coach thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It did, because he still doubled down on being like, I think we made the correct call. And everyone was like, it was never the correct call. JJ Watt called what you did coaching malpractice. Matt Ryan, I forget the Steelers' old coach before Tomlin. They were talking about that. Like, what was he thinking? Now, was it on Caleb too? Absolutely. He should have called a timeout. He should have spiked it. Although it was third down, maybe not spike it. Regardless, like he should have done something. Like, hey, coach, what the fuck? Timeout. And you know, that whole thing got me so mad, and I'm so glad that he's gone. The way in which the Bears did it was terrible. They let him go on his 2-hour press conference on Friday and then fired him an hour later. Dumb. Just dumb. Any coach that watches this and looks at this is probably like, why would I want to go to the Bears? Yes, the talent's there, but the organizational failures are all over the place. Regardless.
The Bears ownership did what Eberflus did just with the firing. They waited until the press conference, and then they were like, I think we should fire him.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, we gotta fire him. Oh yeah, he's doing his press conference. Let's go. And that's what Eberflus thought he was going to take that timeout into the first half of the 49ers game. He's like, I'm going to have 4 timeouts, guys. It's fine. Regardless, Thomas Brown, yeah, dude, it's giving Tomlinson vibes, straight Tomlinson vibes. The way he talks, his cadence, like all that is giving Tomlinson vibes. He's like 5'8", 200 pounds. This game, I do think the Bears are going to win. The 49ers are hurt from top to bottom. They got Guarendo in it, running back. Mason and CMC are obviously hurt. CMC out for the rest of the year.
Guarendo's a dog.
And Guarendo's still a dog.
D.
Yeah, it's still something that we need to worry about because the Bears' run defense is still so bad. So I think Guarendo will still be able to do well in this game because every running back has been able to do well against the Bears. But the Bears, I think, with Thomas Brown as head coach and calling the plays, he's been promoted in the last 3 weeks twice to offensive play caller and to coach. I think he brings a lot of stability. I think he brings a lot of accountability, and I think he brings a lot of grit to this team right now when they need it the most. I mean, one of the things he said was, football is a violent sport. We need our guys to be violent, and that's how it is. And it's like, finally, you know, there's an actual, at least I hope there will be an actual identity these last 5 weeks. As to whether I think he's going to be the head coach, I don't know, man. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. Just like I was nervous about Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams when we drafted them. I'm nervous about this next hire. But the Bears have gotten it wrong twice in a row, 3 times in a row, actually. Trubisky, Fields, and now Caleb with the coaches that they've hired and fired one season into all 3 of their careers. There's not a lot of faith on my end, but the Bears have a lot of homework to do, and they have got a lot on their plate in order to be able to convince us otherwise of not trusting them to pick the coach. Regardless, all of that to say, I do think the Bears win in San Francisco. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan was talking a lot of good stuff about Caleb Williams. Brock Purdy's hurt. CMC's hurt. Ayuk's out. They're down to their 3rd string running back. The defense hasn't really played up to the standards that they were playing at the first quarter of the season on the 49ers side. And I think this is going to be a close game because the 49ers are, even at this time, after all the firings, still a much better coached team than the Bears. The coaching staff is much, much better. And that's final. There's no way around it. Can Thomas Brown create a spark? I really hope so. And I think that's what's going to create the Bears win. But I do think it's going to be a very close game. Honestly, it's probably going to be a pretty low-scoring game, maybe 21-17, 24-21, something around there.
I could see that being the score. And then if he wins out, you think he'll be the coach next year?
If he wins out, man, I don't know. I honestly have zero idea. If he wins out, it makes him look way better because ever since he took over play calling duties, the offense has scored more points. Caleb Williams broke the rookie record for consecutive passes without an interception. He's thrown for more touchdowns with 0 interceptions. The yards per game, the yards per play have gone up since Thomas Brown has been OC. And if he wins out and possibly gets to the playoffs, fingers crossed, I doubt it. But if he does that, it's going to look much, much, much better when they take a look at him in the offseason. And he comes from the Sean McVay tree. He was with him for a couple years. So I think everything he can do from here on out is just good for him going into the offseason as a head coach candidate.
All right. The Bills have won 7 straight games. A win in this game against the Rams would actually tie the second longest in franchise history. This would be really good for the Bills, who are trying to get the number 1 seed. They're chasing down the Chiefs, who we're going to talk about next. And I think for Buffalo, this is a really good opportunity for them. But I feel like McVay always shines in these type of games. Whenever the lights are bright, the Rams find a way to win. This is a tough one because I'm tempted to put Josh Allen on my bench, put Tua as my starter, and to make the Rams my upset of the week. And the Rams right now, they have back-to-back home losses, Dolphins and then Eagles in week 12. All right, they're trying to avoid their longest home losing streaks since McVay became the head coach, which is what would happen if they lost the game. Matthew Stafford had a 77 total QBR in his past 3 games. That's the second best in the NFL in that span. Second only to Josh Allen. Stafford has 8 passing touchdowns in his past 3 games, second most in the NFL since week 11, and he hasn't thrown an interception. I think this is going to be a really good game, but give me the Rams.
Ooh, I like it. Upset alert. The Rams lost to the Bears. I can't pick against them. I can't pick against the Bills here. I think the Bills are going to go into LA and beat them, not smash them. I think they're going to beat them. I think it's going to be like a 21-14 game, win by a score, 24-14, something like that. Josh Allen has played pretty well the last 3 games. He hasn't played outstanding. I mean, mostly it's been like using his feet, getting into the end zone, just lateraling the ball, Amari Cooper lateraling the ball and getting a score to Josh Allen. He's been doing it in awesome ways, but he hasn't been great. It's not like, 300 plus passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception type games. It's been like he's 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think the most stats, the most yards he's got the last 3 games, 280, and that was week 11 against the Colts. So this team as a whole, the Bills, are a good team. They're one of the best teams, if not like the second, third best team right now in the NFL. You had them number 1 on your top 5. I had them number 2. So in our eyes, they're a top 2 team regardless. So I think they're going to go in there and beat the Rams. They're in LA, and I think Sean McVay's coaching is definitely a plus, and it kind of sways the score a little bit, which is why I don't think they're going to just destroy the Rams. It's still Matthew Stafford. It's still a lot of these guys on the Rams there, and Sean McVay, of course. So I'm going with the Bills as well to beat the Rams, but not destroy the Rams.
All right, and then Sunday Night Football, we have the Chargers and the Chiefs. This is a tough one because I feel like it helps Denver if the Chiefs win. The only issue with that is that I don't think they do. The Chargers, to me, are a much better team than the Chiefs, even though the Chargers are coming off that loss. I think they lost to the Eagles. Yeah, right? No. Yeah.
I think they did lose to the Eagles. Yeah.
It was Chargers-Eagles, I think, was the game. I think that was, November 7th. Yeah. No. They beat the Eagles. That was 2021. I'm thinking of the Ravens.
Okay.
I knew it was one of those top teams. But yeah, they lost to the Ravens, and now they're going to play the Chiefs. I think that on paper you see the Chiefs and you're scared, but I think the Chiefs or the Chargers are just a better team right now. And the Chiefs have been winning all these close games. Every single game they've played. They could have lost in the Panthers, Raiders, twice the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're winning these games, but there's just nothing about the Chiefs that I feel confident in. And here's what's different. We said last year this is what they did, but they didn't, because this year, I'll give you a stat that just proves it. The Chiefs are 0-6 against the spread in their past 6 games. That means if they were, let's say they're 3-point favorites, they lost by 2 or 1. They never covered the spread. In 6 straight games, no team has ever won a Super Bowl in the same season. It had a 6-game losing streak against the spread. Every single spread the Chiefs have lost. And they've been favored to win, all of them. They've been favorites in 6 straight games, but they don't cover. So the spread naturally in this game is at 4, which tells you that if the Chiefs do win, it's going to be by 3 to once again not cover that 4-point spread. So if you are thinking about betting the Chiefs, just don't take the spread. Just take them straight up, because I guarantee you, if the Chiefs do win this game, it's going to be by 1 or 3 points. But for me, I have a hard time seeing the Chargers not win this game.
Oh, okay. Their defense is really good, and I agree. It's tough for me to see the Chargers lose this game, especially with the defense. And this is my game of the week. This is my game of the week right here. Sunday Night Football between the Chiefs and the Chargers. And kind of to your point, if the Chargers lose this and the Kansas City Chiefs win, in terms of record, Broncos, Chargers, both 8-5. Division, if the Chargers lose, both 2-2. Conference is where it gets a little bit dicey, because if the Chargers lose, the Chargers are 5-4 in the conference. Denver Broncos are 4-4. So that right there would be the tiebreaker in terms of position, seating position for the wild card.
We should be 9-4, but the field goal was blocked.
But the field goal was blocked.
Sucks.
And there's probably a couple other games too you want to look back at, especially with the way that Bo has been playing and the defense has just been dominating even more so. But I think you do want.
All of a sudden, the AFC West is like,
it's up there, man.
Division.
It's like the North, the 2 Norths, and like the West are like AFC West are like the best divisions right now. And I think your level a little bit more, and that's just in terms of conference wins and losses, because even if they lose, same divisional record, same straight up record, the conference, you get 1 game closer on the Chargers. For this game, my game of the week,
I got you unclear, broken and unreadable.
okay. But you can hear me though?
I got you back.
Okay, cool. I said I'm gonna go with the Chargers to upset the Chiefs at home. The defense is a little too good right now for the Chiefs. And you saw they needed a blocked kick against the Broncos to win that game. I think the Chargers are able to do it. I think Harbaugh is able to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
You're like, if the Broncos can beat the Chiefs, the Chargers definitely can. So you think the Chargers are better than us. All right. Well, Thursday Night Football, for the first time in the history of Thursday Night Football, they flexed the Broncos Chargers. So we'll see very soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be an exciting game regardless. Great game of the week, by the way. Let's go into Monday Night Football, our final game.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Cincinnati Bengals at Cowboys. I love this game. I'm not supposed to love this game because of the record, but I do love the game because these are 2 teams that are not caring about their record and they're playing hard football. The Cowboys playing really good under McCarthy. They got the win against the Commanders on the road. Then they beat the Giants last week. Like, the Cowboys aren't, I mean, they could have easily right now been a 3-9 team, but they're on a
Mhm.
2-game winning streak. They're at home. McCarthy has proven that he should be the head coach next year, in my opinion. The
Mhm.
Bengals, their defense is just like historically bad. Never has a quarterback done what Joe Burrow's done this year and had a losing record. The other quarterbacks to do it were like 15-1 or 13-3.
Yeah.
It's like uncharted territory, and it's actually, as a football fan, it's sad because I feel like we're
Yeah.
being robbed of Joe Burrow in the playoffs because of
Mhm.
this defense. And if this defense was even mediocre, Joe Burrow would probably be the front runner for MVP right now.
Yeah,
It is
100%.
just terrible to see that defense single-handedly ruin one of the great quarterback seasons of Joe Burrow's career so far. Jamar Chase has been awesome. But, Denver's got the richest owners in the history. The Bengals have the poorest owners in the NFL. And
Mhm.
it shows how you
Mhm.
just had a player that was playing for the Bengals speak out about it on a podcast. I'm forgetting his name, but you can find it. But, the fact that the practice facility, like they have to walk like downtown to get to their practice facility, like the fact
Mhm.
that T. Higgins or Jamar Chase haven't been paid. It's just the way they do business. They don't really take care of their players.
Yeah.
Things are really shaky right now. It's when you're winning, all of that goes away. But when you're losing, all these little issues surface. I don't
Mhm.
really know what to do with this game. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow because of the way he's playing. But I do expect Cooper Rush to be able to have more success than he's been able to have just because of this defense. And I expect the game to be a high-scoring game. It's at 49.5 points. I think this game is one of those where both teams go above 28 points.
This is such a weird one, like you said, because the Cowboys have one more win than the Bengals. What? Like Joe Burrow. And I said it in the preseason. I was like, Joe Burrow, after he went on that podcast and was like, oh, I'm fucking coming into this season and I'm, balling out. He is balling out. He's got 3,300 pass yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. He's
With
got 10
5
more
games left.
and there's 5 games left. He's got 10 more touchdowns and the same amount of interceptions as Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, I mean, probably has more rushing yards, more rushing touchdowns, a bit more flashier plays. And Josh Allen's being considered for the MVP. And Joe Burrow, while he should, is just not able to win because of the defense, like you said. And it
At
is
this
sad.
particular moment in time, the
This
defense isn't
particular
able to
moment.
get the job done. We all get all that. I don't give a damn.
My God, Stephen A. made an appearance here on the Only Football Podcast. I love it. It's such a weird game. But I'm also taking the Bengals. I'm taking the Bengals because Joe Burrow is better than Cooper Rush. The Bengals offense is better than the Cowboys offense. Cowboys defense is better, but I don't think it's that much better to where they're going to hold back Joe Burrow by any means. And you're right. The ownership right now for the Bengals is like the ownership for the Bengals find themselves in the same position that the Chiefs found themselves in a few years ago with Patrick Mahomes, except they paid almost everybody except Tyreek, obviously. And the Bengals are not doing that. The Bengals ownerships are not, they're not doing that. They paid Joe Burrow, obviously. You got to pay him, but you got to pay the rest of your guys too, man. Why is this an issue? You know what I mean? So they may be the poorest owners and probably one of the worst, really, at this point. But you guys they have someone special. They've got someone's special. They got some special players there. So I'm taking the Bengals, and the Bengals ownership needs to pay up. But yeah, I'm taking that Bengals.
I have a sweater that says Joe Burr. And
I remember that one.
Joe Burrow, I remember Jinja was like, he's not even that good. And I went on like a full rant, and I never rant at Jinja, but I'm like, dude, Joe Burrow is amazing. He is, he is like, if you could have any quarterback, you could make a real argument, especially if you're a Bengals fan, that you would want Joe Burrow, not Mahomes. Now, you could get into all the other stuff, but I'm just going to show you right here, right now, why Joe Burrow would be my quarterback.
Oh, so hot.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get it yet, though?
I don't get it for like a year, but I bought it.
It's gonna be crazy.
Oh, my God.
It's just Batman when he had the ass eye thing on,
I think I gotta go all in and go for like the expensive bats.
the suit and all.
Yeah. 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 That's good. That's good.
So, even when the defense is sucking, he's like, just casually, hey, man, have I told you I bought a Batmobile?
In the middle of
a $3 million vehicle.
In the middle of a 4-8 season, he's like, by the way, a Batmobile's coming to my house next year.
You gotta find something to keep you going. You
do.
I just can't wait to see him pull up in a Batmobile for a game. I mean, imagine Halloween next year.
That's gonna be amazing.
In a Batsuit.
Oh, and his wife or girlfriend, whatever it is probably gonna be a Catwoman. I love it. I love it.
It's gonna be great. But that is our Week 14 predictions. Whether you like them, love them, hate them, let us know in the comments below. And hopefully we have a bunch of good football games coming up. Rick's game of the week is going to be Sunday Night Football, Chargers and Chiefs. Mine's going to be the Cardinals and the Seahawks for the NFC. So definitely stay tuned for all of it.
Yeah, we're going to be streaming some of those games this weekend, so make sure to tune in. And Kyle, I think it's time for the motherfucker.
Welcome to the Chives with Kyle.
Oh.
All right. So, my Chives today. Wide receiver George Pickens having a rematch with Greg Newsome. That is a fight that is waiting to happen. Wait until Sunday. There will be a fight between Newsome and George Pickens. Now, if you are missing this key element of emotion, I'm going to give you a little backstory. So they got into a fight, and I guess Greg Newsome's been kind of talking shit about George Pickens, and then they asked him about it, and this is what I'm going to tell you what George Pickens said, and then Greg Newsome. So George Pickens said, here we go. The Steelers and Browns certainly don't like each other. George Pickens won't even acknowledge the existence of the Browns defender, telling reporters, I don't even know who that is on Friday. So Pickens doubled down on his stance, saying, I just go by the record.
Wow.
Love
that.
Yeah, when asked if he was given the Browns bulletin board material, Pickens kept it simple. I don't know what motivates them. I'm just focused on what we can do.
Fucking love that. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
So just stay tuned. That didn't stop Newsome from firing back at Pickens today. We care about the team, Newsome said. He's a guy who cares about himself. You see that in the penalties he causes.
Oh, shit. This is actually
Newsome
really
added to his response by sharing a screenshot of a supportive direct message he received from Pickens in 2019, providing the simple context of two emojis, a crying laughing face and a clown face. We'll see if Pickens and Newsome exchange words again on Sunday in Pittsburgh. The Steelers wide receivers listed as questionable with a hamstring, but he's expected to play. Perhaps then they might even get to know each other a little bit more.
Love it. There's going to be some words pregame. For sure. So check out that. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Week 14 predictions episode. We had Nick, Liam, Edub, Daniel, Barry in here.
Missionary.
Missionary. Thank
The
you
one
guys.
where I'm on top and she's on bottom.
And on her back, missionary.
Missionary.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys tuning in to our predictions episode and tonight. Remember, we're going to be streaming some games on Sunday, so look for those notifications on your YouTube. Go follow us on X at and now Rick and at Only Football Podcast. Where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me at NFL with Kyle. Right.
Make sure to hit a like on this stream if you haven't already. Share it, subscribe, become a member. Only $2.99 a month to get some sick emojis and some members only goodies.
Side
So
effects
go
may cause bleeding, welding,
May cause death.
urinating,
make us death.
hot flashes, sadness,
Images of Kyle with his shirt off and death. It may cause those are the side
tattoos
effects.
on your nipples. We don't know what's going to happen.
A sense of pride in every NFL take that you have. So make sure to become a member today. We would definitely appreciate it. Kyle, you got anything else before we get up out of here?
That's all I got, baby.
All right. Thank you guys again, everybody. And Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.